Good evening. Just 2 men are presently keeping watch over prisoners in Otago and Southland jails. Prison officers walked off the job this afternoon and are not due to return to work for another hour. Mark Price reports.
It's believed to be the first time Dunedin prison officers have walked off the job. 26 here and even more in Invermay are on strike until 7 o'clock in support of national action over the government's cuts to their superannuation scheme.
It's legalised theft, if you like, and the government can pass legislation in 7 minutes to increase their own superannuation and then rip us off in about 7 minutes to take hours away from us.
Left on duty are the superintendents of Dunedin and Invercargill prisons. At Dunedin there are 48 inmates locked in their cells for the duration of the strike, and at Invercargill well over 100. When the strike ends, prison officers are planning to carry on with other industrial action, including a ban on taking in new prisoners.
Courts, they're going to have a problem. What they're going to do with the inmates or prisoners that are sentenced to imprisonment. The police have said they won't handle them, so I don't know what's going to happen there. That's for the court and the department and the government to sort out, not prison officers.
A court official says they'll be taking things as they come, but the sentences passed by judges won't be influenced by industrial action in prisons.
Residents of Kakanui are still being advised by health officials to drink only boiled water. Meanwhile, new filters have provided officials with the equipment they need to test more extensively for the harmful organism Protozoa giardia. They suspect it may be responsible for a number of recent illnesses in the town. The reservoir was tested on Friday, and when more filters arrive, officials plan to test the river and reticulation system until they track down the culprit. The new Labour Party has announced its candidate to contest the Dunedin North seat, being vacated by Cabinet Minister Stan Rodger. Representing the new party will be Chris Trotter, a national councillor and editor of New Labour's bi-monthly newspaper. Mr Trotter is a 34-year-old former Dunedin Union official who was a New Zealand Labour Party councillor before switching to the breakaway party. He believes his campaign will have a big impact in an electorate that looks like becoming a battleground for the major parties. Stretch a point and you could call them the country's biggest minority with the smallest voice, the victims of crime. But that may be changing. Victim support groups have been set up around the country to help crime victims, and they're already successful beyond the organisers' wildest expectations. The groups are organised by the police, and Cliff Joyner's been looking at how they work.
Police deal with hundreds of crimes each week, and for most, there is a victim. Until recently, these targets of the criminal fraternity have been left to fend for themselves. But that's something the Christchurch Victim Support Group, along with others around the country, has started to change.
Well, we hope that by bringing to attention of the public, first and foremost, the plight of the victims, also bringing to the attention of the public that there are groups there who are able to help them. So anybody who is a victim doesn't have to be on their own. There are people there who can help them, and they are certainly not forgotten anymore.
Among the most common crimes are home burglaries. This woman, who doesn't want to be identified, was a victim.
I came home from a Sunday service to find that the burglars had broken into my home. Most of my furnishings were outside, ready for them to take. I felt frozen and numb and shaking a lot. The police were very good, but when the victim support group came, they were a husband and wife team, and they were really wonderful.
It made my heart turn over when I first saw it, to think that anybody could be so cruel as to do that. Her Christmas presents were gone, and it was Christmas Day.
The support people cleared up all the broken china and crystal, put all the furniture back in its place, made me cups of coffee and tea. I'm quite sure I wouldn't have been able to survive without their help.
There are no rules governing those who can get assistance from the Victim Support Group. They don't just help people who have been hit by crime, but they help people who have been affected by other tragedies.
A gentleman late in life who retired, almost immediately retired, his wife died. He'd never done any shopping. He really couldn't cook for himself and almost starved to death until we took him in hand and were able to show them how to buy, suggest to them to buy a microwave, show them what sort of groceries to get, made it easy to cook for himself and things like that. So we actually work with victims right across the board.
Last October, Carol Rich woke to find her house on fire. She had to rescue her son from a blazing kitchen and was left with a gutted house. She got help from victim support.
Everything sort of went when we were outside, when the windows and that blew. That's when I sort of thought, oh, you know, everything's going to go, I'm going to lose everything, I'm not insured.
And what about victim support?
Well, I was next door with the lady next door at the time when they came in, introduced themselves to us, you know, and sat down and just wanted to know anything we wanted or calm us down, and, you know, they were really marvellous.
Victim support helps 1 or 2 people each week, but it's hoped that soon everyone hit by crime or tragedy will be able to get help if they need it.
Staff who've been part of Invermay's 40 years of agricultural research and experimentation had plenty to talk about at the weekend when they got together for a reunion. About 300 people took the opportunity to reminisce about the old days. Kathy Graham was there.
This is where Invermay started out 40 years ago with a staff of half a dozen. That building's long since gone. In fact, it's now a crib in Arrowtown. The staff have gone too, as you may well expect, except for Bill Fowler, who joined way back then and is still working for Invermay.
I started as a general hand, weeding trees.
What was it like then?
Bare, very bare. What do we have? We had 500 sheep, 50 cattle.
Years of hard work have converted the original 1,200-acre farm into a research station with a national reputation. Field days kept local farmers informed of the latest methods of breaking in hill country, cropping, weed control and pasture management. The station's new offices at Puddle Alley reflect the progress Invermay's made over the years, with the buildings and landscape grounds providing a perfect setting for the weekend reunion.
Residents of the Otago Peninsula, stirred on by the 1990s celebrations, have been taking steps to preserve their history for the enjoyment of future generations. They celebrated the latest additions to their museum complex at Portobello at the weekend with a community fair. Kathy went along.
Portobello and the Peninsula do have something to celebrate this year. The 1990 Commission gave the local Historical Society a grant of $5,000 towards the barn they've built to house historic bits and pieces from the area. Dunedin's Mayor Richard Walls did the honours, praising the community for their efforts.
I now declare the barn officially open.
Peter Boyles of Portobello has made replicas of many of the peninsula's historic buildings. Highcliffe School has now gone, unfortunately, and there are other reminders of the peninsula's agricultural past. This is a horseworks that was once used to make chaff.
The horse was attached to the pole, and it just walked round and round all day, and that drove the shaft.
The Society has also added this old cottage to its collection. It dates back to the days of pit-sawn timber. It will be restored to make an impressive addition to the Society's museum complex. Meanwhile at the fair, there were Morris dances. And lots of fun for the kids.
That's it from us. We'll be back tomorrow. Good night.